That's better. Now you can hear me. I'm sure you all were worried about that. 3.03, a little bit of sloppy language in there, grammar. I would suggest on that use of seaplanes prohibition to strike the two words use of and just leave it as seaplanes are prohibited. The language will be consistent with the previous paragraph which says personal watercraft are prohibited. And Doug tells me that this has no bearing on first or second reading or anything, so we can move it right along and vote on it next week. Does everybody agree with that? Yes. Good. The declarations and protective covenants summary, second reading. There again, these are notations that are added to help people understand the 1965 legalese, and I think they've done a very good job of that. I don't see there will be any problems with interpretations or anything like that. So, are there any questions on that? No. Okay. Now we get down to the item that everybody's been waiting for, the emergency capital project, the gun range safety renovation, something that a lot of members are anxiously awaiting, and we are making progress on it. It will be safe when it's done. So Tom, go ahead and explain that.
All right, so I put together a PowerPoint because there's a lot of items that we want to talk about, and we want to make sure that people are fully aware of what the plans are. So this is the update for today, the 21st. And you'll see, giving everybody background, we've been giving the Rec Committee updates every month. So I encourage viewers, if you haven't seen any of those, please go back to the meeting on the 8th, January 8th and February 12th. It really gives you good context and gives you the progression as we work through this process. So it may be helpful. It's all this is available on the POA's website at bellavistapoa.com. So our goal is to make all reasonable improvements to the pistol and rifle range. Some of the steps that we've taken, and some of these slides are recycled, so if you have seen the January and February Rec Committee meetings, you'll notice some of these slides are the exact same. Why reinvent the wheel? It works. But we've been working with Wallace Design, which is the civil engineering firm that we've used on other projects. We've also using Nielsen Architecture, which is another firm that we know and trust and work with a lot. So we want to move forward on this project as quickly as possible. There we go. CLS is the survey company that we're using. We got the preliminary survey in just a few days ago. We need some tweaks to it. And we've also sent some staff members to Conway to look at a state-run facility to get input on how we should make the renovations. So key improvements, we're looking at a baffle and berm system. Baffle system will be installed on both sides. We're currently thinking 4 baffles on the rifle side and 1 baffle on the pistol side. And I have some graphics so if you've never heard of the word baffle, you don't know what it means, we're going to cover that in just a moment. Also, there's going to be a ballistic roof on both sides. So right now we just have like a canopy cover that shades you, and a ballistic roof will come down to make sure that if anybody's not shooting their weapon in the right direction, it'll get knocked down. Between the baffles and the sloped roof, you'll see no blue skies. Also berms, we're going to add berms on the right side or the west side, the rear or the south portion of it. And we're going to raise the height of those, and we're going to have a ballistic wall on the left side. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. And all this is subject to change. We're moving as efficiently as possible. So please don't quote me on any of these things, because as we go through it, if the experts say that we need to make some adjustments, we're going to make those. We're not going to back up. So this is this is a picture from Conway, and you'll see that we have a baffle. And notice a couple different things. First of all, it's very low. You can't see any blue sky. So if any misfired weapon is shot, probably could phrase that better, it's going to hit those walls and get knocked down. Also notice how there's numbers down each of the lanes. Every once in a while, people will cross fire between lanes, and that's not good. We want them focused straight down. It looks really obvious from here, but sometimes it happens. Also, you'll notice the railroad ties. Those help catch any skips. So if you shoot low, sometimes the bullet will flatten out and it can skip and frisbee out. I've personally never seen that, but I've been told it can happen. Now we're going to place these at defined locations, 25, 50, 75, and 100 yards. That way there's a specific place that you know that you can place the target, because right now it's just an open field and people go out there and they don't really know how far. There are some cases they really need to know that. We may have to make some modifications to the 25, the 50, 75, because we have a bathroom septic system in that area. So we may have to make it like 30 yards instead of 25 yards, but we'll have it marked very clearly. And this is an example. I put those in the bottom right. And so this is a good example. This is an artist's rendition of what our range potentially would look like. Don't count the number of targets. That's just up there for display purposes or illustrative purposes. But you see the baffles progressively. Keep your eye low. You have berms on the left and the right, so that should keep all rounds within the confines of our gun range, thus making it a much safer environment. This is the preliminary plans of what the pistol side will look like, and you can actually see that we have markers at the I think this is 7-yard and 15-yard mark location. You'll see that we're adding these dotted lines are the ballistic canopy, and you can see one a baffle that's all the way across. And on the bottom left, you'll see sight lines, and so they use a lot of great technology to make sure that they made decisions to make sure that we capture every bullet. And you'll see that the mound is, the berm is much larger than it currently is. So part of the survey work that we're doing right now is identifying the exact height of everything. And one thing that we've found is that specifically on the rifle side and a little bit less so on the pistol side is the targets are actually lower than the shooting locations. So that means that the berms have to be a little bit higher, because you're actually, if you just hit it shot straight, you're going to be hitting the top of the berm. So we have to make some adjustments because of the elevation, and that's why we had the survey done, because we need to know those types of things. Here is the rifle side, and you'll see that those are 4 berms. Now, one thing that came up is when they originally came to us, they said, well, you could do 3 baffles and a berm, or you could potentially do 4 baffles and not adjust the berms. And we said, let's do the berms and 4 baffles. Let's make sure that this is as safe as we can possibly make it. And you'll notice that we're actually going to add some additional shooting locations, positions on the rifle side, and we're going to have a raised platform for where you can shoot from a prone position by having it raised. That way you're shooting actually at the same height as everybody else, If you shot from a much lower height, you could actually potentially get go over the berm or the baffle, and we don't want that to happen. And here's some of the plans, and you'll see how they're being built. So what's interesting is when we use the NRA as a source, and they talk about having ballistic roofs and so forth, they would tell you you needed a ballistic roof, but they didn't tell you how to build a ballistic roof. So that's why we got the engineers or the architects involved and the engineers, and they came back and said, this is what a definition of a ballistic roof is. And you can see there's a whole bunch of wood, a whole bunch of 2x4s, and that should knock it down. You'll notice on the bottom right, there's actually an X over some of the shooting positions. That's because those are existing ones. So those are just for illustrative. I probably, if I were drawing it, I probably would have just graded out like they did. I probably wouldn't have used the X, because that means that some people might think that we're removing them. We're not doing that. So we're looking at adding additional positions. This is what the berms will look like. So you see that we'll add one. As you're facing downrange, we're going to add one on the right-hand side. We're going to really enlarge the one on the left and the bottom or the rear. So that's much larger. You see the footprint is much larger. We're going to, on the pistol side, we're going to enlarge that. And you can see right here is where the ballistic wall would be. And so they felt that that was going to be a better approach than a berm for that specific location, to make sure that no rounds go to the side. Because of this, so the light gray area is land that the POA currently owns. The dark gray area is the land that we need to acquire from Cooper in order to build these larger berms. Clearly we don't have, if you just look at the light gray area, we can get some of those berms in there, but not all of them, and that's not enough. So we've approached Cooper, and they have agreed to sell us the land for $10,000 plus any expenses that they incur, filing fees, so forth. And which is great. They've been very cooperative, which I really commend them for their being cooperative. In addition to this, since we're making significant improvements to the range, we're going to add handicap parking. We're going to make it ADA accessible. We've been going through all our buildings over the years and upgrading our buildings, and we've been upgrading our ADA compliance and making sure that that we can accommodate all of our membership. And so we're gonna be ADA compliant when we're all done, because everybody wants to shoot, so we want to make sure we can accommodate them. So the cost we're estimating is $300,000 to renovate the range. Most of the work is going to be done in-house. So this is normally, I come to the board and I say it's going to cost $300,000. We have a bid. We have a piece of paper that says from XYZ vendor it's going to cost $300,000. This is a little bit different because we're doing a lot of the work in-house. We're going to learn a lot as we go along. We're going to probably have to make some modifications as we go along. So I'm asking for forgiveness in advance that we think it's going to be $300,000. Now we have a contingency in there. So Mike and I discussed the project. We came up with a lower number, and then we added a contingency just in case. So we'll know more as we move along in the project. The $10,000 for the land, that's a hard number, but plus expenses, that's not a hard number. So I got a couple. This is a little bit looser than we normally do, but what we're trying to do is move as rapidly as possible, not foolishly quickly, but we're trying to move as rapidly as possible because we know that we're inconveniencing a large portion of our membership in doing this. So, so in the motion, you'll see that we'll we're assuring the board that we'll come back to the board with updated numbers as we go along. Well, we did receive a question regarding funding. How are we going to fund this? So at this time, I think it's very premature. We're barely into the year. We're in the first quarter still. We can figure out how we're going to fund this. This is $300,000. We have a $38 million a year budget. We'll figure it out. I'm not saying that I'm going to be frivolous, but let's find out how much. This is clearly an emergency. We could potentially pull from our emergency fund. In my opinion, it would require a vote of the board. We could draw it from there. Or let's just see how the year goes. We've actually started the year nicely. That's nice. Beth told me just a couple days ago we got a rebate from Carroll Electric for $93,000. That happens every year and a half to 2 years. You can't really predict when you're going to get it. We've received it before, so it's not budgeted for. So it's so that's a nice windfall for us. So maybe we could apply that to there. So I think regarding funding, if we need to make some cutbacks at some point in the year, we can look at that possibility, or we take it from the emergency fund. But let's just see how the year goes. In my opinion, we don't need to make a decision so quickly. And hopefully Mike's able to get it done efficiently, and we can beat that number by a large margin, and it won't be as much of an issue. I know that yes.
Question. So of that 300,000, how much of that would be that additional ballistics wall versus the other berm? It seemed like there was possibly an option for a berm over there, but they recommended a ballistics wall over there. Can you give us a little bit more insight into that?
So they determined that based upon safety. They felt because a person shooting out the side, it's a lot harder to capture that round than if everything's regimented and they're pointing their weapon straight down. That's an easier one to knock down. But going out the side, they felt that the berm was going to have to be too high. So they decided to go with a ballistic wall instead.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just trying to understand the cost of that ballistic wall, and is that shooting from the side something that could be eliminated by just having one less lane, or?
No, unfortunately, some people are overly creative in their inability to use a firearm.
Accidents happen. That's why they
To
call
that
it.
point, there was an additional that didn't you mention that Cooper really didn't want to sell us the land that would be required to do a berm there as well.
That's true. Yeah. Let me elaborate on that
go
and then
ahead.
get to your question. So they own the land to the east side, and you'll notice how it cuts in. They really wanted to sell as little land as possible because they want to develop that at some point. I don't know what they're going to build there. That's not my concern. It's going to be loud, but it's not my concern what they want to build there. So that played into it also is if you can imagine that berm having to go to the top of the screen north and having to go more to the east, that's more land, and Cooper was going to be hesitant. So those were all the things that we had to factor in. I think the ballistic wall is basically another baffle, just lower.
A lot cheaper than dirt work.
Yeah.
Something else that just to mention on the record that all of our dirt is going to be donated either through the city or from another member of POA. Mark Beals generously offered that, so that's a big cost savings for this project, a huge cost savings. My question was, has there been any more discussion about the baffle between lanes for the pistol range at least?
So I put that question to the to the architect and the civil engineer. I haven't received an answer yet.
Okay,
So you brought that. We didn't forget. So in addition to this, we're looking at changing some of our procedures to increase safety, and our staff is going through additional training at this time to increase their safety awareness and so forth. So It's not just the physical things that we're going to make an improvement on. We're trying to really take it up a notch. Once again, this is $300,000, 310, maybe a little bit more. I think I saw a Facebook post that was saying it was going to be $3 million.
Close.
Don't know where they got the information. I'm sure it was a reliable source, but
Or a stutter.
I don't know. It's only 1-0. Well, only 1-0 off, but close enough. Yeah, I want to commend Mike and his team, Rick, John, Heath. They've all pulled together to try and push this through as quickly as possible. You'll notice on the bottom there is, I'm going to hedge my bet and not give you an estimate as to when we're going to reopen, because there's just so many variables that are beyond my control, beyond our control, and I don't want to be in a position where I give an estimate and then everybody gets disappointed.
Hey, Tom, quick question. So our estimated users from 2023 or whatever, could we kind of figure out how much a cost per user this upgrade is? Like we had 3,000 people use the gun range last year. How many people use the gun range? I'm just trying to make the argument of why this is a good spend, because it's
Well,
X amount.
I don't have the numbers off my top of my head. I can definitely get them by next Thursday's meeting. We've seen a steady increase in range usage over the years. They've done a really good job of offering programs, concealed carry classes, beginner firearm classes. They've done a really good job in reaching out to the community, and so we've seen the usage go through the roof. So we're really pleased with that. So I can get you that information. I don't know it off the top of my head.
One more is this also available for non-members to pay a larger fee to use?
No, only through guests. If you're a guest, you can come. If you have a guest pass, you can use it.
Would we consider this the same as golf to be just a higher premium to utilize?
It has not been considered that way.
You know, I suspect that there will be increased usage once this project is completed, because it'll be a much more attractive facility, and the attention that it's getting will probably increase quite a bit over what the historical record has been for usage.
I would agree with that. You know, we have a lot of people that are very interested in us getting this open as soon as possible, and we're going to do what we can to move the needle as quickly as we can so we can get it done.
I think it'll definitely be a project that enhances the lives of our membership. And as Jan says, the attention that it's getting, you know, there's people still weren't aware of it. And it's going to be a really nice facility. So I see the usage just go up, up, up.
I know you've made arrangements for people to go down to Springdale and use that facility. Do you have any more updated numbers on how many people are going down
So
there?
I think in January it was 108, in February it was 115. If I'm off by just a few.
Yeah.
So people are using
it.
It's a good range. Allison and I went down there. We shot down there. They're very nice, polite. They have very rigid rules, and you had to go through an orientation, and that got my attention. They're having rigid rules and going through an orientation and so forth. Yeah, people are using it. We're getting great compliments on them. So we've partnered with a really good group.
Anything else?
So you'll see this same presentation by and large next week. Sorry.
Okay, in that case, we will adjourn and see you next Thursday. Thank you.